Hi there, my name is Chris Lake. I am the Business Development Manager with D&H on all things Dell. I'll go ahead and jump into my piece of it and mention that Dell with Intel across all the product lines is ready for AI, is ready to support everything Copilot, fast processors, the fastest AI response times. If you guys have any questions about the new naming conventions with Dell and Dell Pro, Dell Pro Max, anything like that, please don't hesitate to check out dnh.com to see some of those. But if you really need to identify what the new, replacement parts for whatever system you're quoting for your customer, whether it's precision, latitude, anything like that, you can reach out to the Dell team, and we can help to make recommendations based on the specs, based on if you have an exact part and you just want the exact replacement part, we can provide that for you as well. And then just one reminder that we have is that Windows 10 is end of life. We do occasionally get requests for those. It'll save your client time and make it easier for everybody if you just kind of start the conversation with them to make them aware that Windows 11 is the way to go. But if you provide, again, a part or specifications for something that you need quoted for a customer, we can help to drive them toward the right system. So up after me, he lives in Austin with his wife Renee and his 3 daughters. Rylan is a sophomore, Juliana and Finley, who will be 5 tomorrow. He's a sales development manager for Intel, focused on Dell's channel and distribution business. Prior to that, he was at Intel and Dell for 8 years. You know him, you love him. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, thanks, Chris, and thanks everyone on the call for your time today. I know we're heading into the holidays, so really appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit about Dell and Intel. As Chris mentioned, my name is Paul Dundee. I am a sales development manager at Intel, focused solely on Dell's channel and distribution business. We're going to talk a little bit today about the partnership that we have across. Chris mentioned some help with transitioning from prior Dell products over into what Dell's current lineup is and their current brand through the Dell Pro, Dell Pro Max lineup. I do and will have some of those slides not shared today, but will be on the resources afterwards. So once you get those after the call, please make sure to take a look, and it'll kind of help you walk through where your customer was previously and where they should be today in the Dell portfolio and Dell lineup. One big plug that we have here, for those of you who typically used to buy Dell direct and now are going through distribution, Intel actually has a partner alliance program where not only can you get access to media and materials and trainings to talk about the Intel product and portfolio, both across data center and across client, but you can also earn dollars on stuff that you're selling already anyway. I don't know, slides are going crazy here. Let me get back to that one. So this is just kind of a high level of what we're doing with the partner program. Won the CRN program guide of the year last year. Really the key here is just think about a way to add dollars to your bottom line by earning points for selling products you're probably already selling anyways. Dell is over 85% of the commercial PC portfolio. When it comes to going through OEMs, we're sitting around 80% of all platforms sold at Dell are Intel based. So please make sure you sign up for that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me and I'll get you a resource. It takes less than 24 hours to do, and you're getting dollars based on the stuff that you're selling today. As always, please keep it interactive. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will answer those live. If there's something that I can help you with, I will put my contact information there at the end as well. Okay, so let's jump into it. So Dell and Intel have had a over 40-year partnership. It's actually 41. When Michael Dell was sitting in his dorm room building laptops or desktops at the time, I guess it was, they were all based on Intel's CPU and chipset. So the relationship is very long, the longest relationship. Dell is Intel's largest partner, especially when it comes to OEMs, and vice versa. Intel is Dell's largest partner. As I mentioned, over 80% of everything that Dell sells has an Intel chip inside of it. And so you see this kind of this circle in front of you. It talks about how not only are we sitting at the PC or the the CPU of choice for PC. It goes all the way into Dell's data center products, their edge products, and even their cloud products are based on Intel CPUs. So what that brings is just a lot of engineering resources that come together better, more so than any other OEM. Dell typically has a better supply chain because of this relationship that we've had for so long. And then you see in times like today's time when memory and drive prices are increasing, Dell typically has the best pricing and the best availability across all OEMs. So it's an incredible relationship that we have, and I'm very thankful to be part of the Dell and Intel team collectively. Okay, so let's first talk about client. We can get into data center a little bit later if you'd like. If not, just let me know. That's not what we want to talk about. So we have quite a few products available on the market today. Prior generation, we had what we called our Raptor Lake or Intel Core product. Then we came out with what we called Meteor Lake or Core Ultra Series 1. The reason why the Ultra nomenclature is there is because that indicates it's an AI PC. And for us, AI PC means that it has an NPU available to be utilized. Does not necessarily mean it's Copilot Plus enabled, meaning 40 tops and above on the NPU, but it has an NPU that can be utilized. In addition to our Meteor Lake offering, we just came out with Arrow Lake and our Lunar Lake offering this year. Arrow Lake, and I'll go through a transition here in a second, is our second iteration of across the entire SKU stack, that's desktop and laptop. And then Lunar Lake sits specifically inside the thin and light category of PCs. The way you can differentiate them is the suffix on the end. So as I mentioned, Core Ultra Series 1, think of Core Ultra Series, call it 135U. That's a Meteor Lake offering. If you move into the 200 series or Arrow Lake, that's a U, an H, HX, or S at the suffix. So think 235U. The key call out here and what's super important to remember is our Lunar Lake offering, which is best of breed. It's our good, better, best version, has a V on the end. So it'll be a 200 series SKU with a V on the very end. What's exciting about that is Lunar Lake has memory on chip. Why does that matter for you guys? Well, we know that memory prices are increasing. So as we continue to see the price of memory rise, Lunar Lake will be coming down in price because the memory has already been purchased, down comparatively to the other offerings. So unlike any other time in history, you're going to be able to find a best solution for approximately the same price as the entry-level solution. So keep in mind in that it has over 40 tops. So if any customers need that Copilot Plus licensing, Lunar Lake is where it's at. So let's jump in quickly into kind of a transition guide. So last year, as I already mentioned, we had Meteor Lake and Raptor Lake. Any of those kind of entry-level customers that want just a cheap PC that they don't do a lot on, maybe it's a Word document or just standard Excel. Maybe they don't need a top of the line. Maybe they're not looking for AI PC and they never will. That would go into Raptor Lake and Arrow Lake offering. Arrow Lake is actually down to the Raptor Lake price. There's supply constraints on the Raptor Lake refresh offering anyway. So really we want to make sure that we're focusing on the Series 200. So Arrow Lake and Lunar Lake. So we talked about, why are we transitioning, right? In the non-AI PC, so those Raptor Lake and Raptor Lake refresh offerings, all of workloads were running on the singular CPU, right? Which caused throttling issues, caused degradation and Teams calls. As we move forward and as Meteor Lake was adopted, we included the NPU and GPU. So there's 3 processing engines on top of a single socket. And so what happens is applications that are focused on CPU type workloads, think the PowerPoints, the Outlooks, the Teams calls, still stay on that CPU, but everything else that has any capability across GPU and NPU moves over to that respective workload. Think of NPU as this low power, efficient way to do security, to do some of the effects that we have today, like the background that I have. And what's great about that is you have a better experience, but also you have significant power savings. So any of your customers or any of you that are traveling on a regular basis, you don't have to keep the charger right next to you at all times. I know I personally travel a decent amount for my job. If I ever fly on Southwest, a lot of times there's no plug. And if it's over a 2-hour flight, my old PC would have died by the time I'd even landed. So it's a huge benefit to have this NPU and GPU silicon on top of the CPU to get the most out of your performance and most out of your PC. Any questions on what we think differentiates an AI PC versus non-AI PC, Copilot Plus PC versus AI PC? Any questions out there? Okay, we'll keep moving. So what does it look like inside of Dell's portfolio? As most of you probably know, Dell changed the nomenclature. Used to be XPS and Precision and Optiplex and Latitude. Last year, there was a brand new branding rollout. So it moved really to Dell Pro, Dell Pro, and then Dell Pro Max. Nomenclature will likely change again, just some of the older products being added back in. But as it stands today, there's 3 different types of each of those, right? You have a base model, you have a plus model, and you have a premium model. What we'll talk about mostly today is the Dell Pro lineup. So, you know, your standard Dell office or your standard basic office workers and everyday professionals are going to use that Pro Plus offering, whether that be an Arrow Lake or Lunar Lake offering. For the on-the-go, like I mentioned, we want to make sure that it's a Lunar Lake offering because of that extra battery life that they have. And they'll either decide between the Dell Pro Plus or Premium category. Key call out here for you guys is that the Lunar Lake offering, the 200 Series V, does not have a place inside of the Dell Pro base model. So if you want to get the best of breed and really the best price at these days, or best bang for your buck, you're going to want to choose between the Dell Pro Plus and Dell Pro Premium. Dell Pro Max are for those super performant workloads. Typically, they need a GPU component to it. We see that with our Arrow Lake S, H, and HX offerings. Lunar Lake does not sit inside Dell Pro Max. Any questions about where Intel fits versus where versus the product and portfolio inside of Dell? All right, I'll assume everyone's asleep or I'm doing an amazing job. Okay, so quickly, just to bring back the Lunar Lake offering, as you noticed, and I reminded you, it's 200 Series V, right? So if you look on the left side of your screen, whenever you're procuring for your customer, make sure you're choosing that V offering, whether it be 226V all the way up to 228V. Again, I'll send out these slides, but one huge differentiator and huge point to call out and something to keep in mind when you're quoting and talking to your customers about Lunar Lake. Lunar Lake has memory built onto the chip, which means that it cannot be upgraded after you purchase it. There's 2 offerings. Number 1, 16 core. Number 2, 16 gigs of memory. Number 2, 32 gigs of memory. When you look at the SKU themselves, you can tell which one is which. The 16 gigs of memory has a 6 on the end. So the example on the left bottom is 226V. That has 16 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of memory on top of the CPU. If it has an 8 on the end, it has 32. So keep in mind, there will be no upgrading after point of sale for this. Not that most customers do it. It's just not something that is available to do inside Lunar Lake. Arrow Lake does have the offering to continue to upgrade the memory. However, we're seeing prices of Lunar Lake devices be about the same price as Arrow Lake. So really, there's no reason to not go into the Lunar Lake stack. Okay, so the conversation has completely changed. Dell now has offerings that are outside of Intel. Prior to this year, nearly every platform sat on an Intel CPU. Fast forward to today, there are offerings for AMD and Qualcomm. And so my job partially is to make sure that you understand why you would select Intel at Dell over an AMD or Qualcomm device. How it used to be was we'd talk about performance, we'd talk about power, and we'd find out where the SKU was that made the most sense for you or your customer. Today, it's very much differentiated. Occasionally, we can add price into that conversation, but as you'll see as we move forward throughout the year, Intel will be better positioned, better priced than our competitors. However, there's a few other components and a few other vectors that we have to think of. And I want to go through each of these and show you where Intel's value prop is comparatively to our competitors. So the new sort of components that we care about more than just performance and price. Performance still stays top of mind. Battery life is a huge one, as we've already kind of touched on. Security is of the utmost importance, especially with AI creeping in and AI detecting and AI threats and AI detection to remove those AI threats. Manageability is often pretty important for our customers, and we'll talk about the blue screen outage. Software and ecosystem, especially as all these edge devices are now integrating AI functionality and capabilities. And then connectivity is the last one. Although it does kind of seem like an afterthought, we've had significantly large customers choosing Intel specifically for the connectivity. And I'll talk about that here in a minute. So let's talk about performance. We talked about how new PCs have 3 different engines. They have the GPU, the NPU, and CPU. NPU has gotten by far the most press. A lot of that goes around Microsoft Copilot and Copilot Plus requiring 40 TOPS. So having that capability is incredibly important for some of our customers. However, what we do see is that when we talk about AI applications, there's still a significant portion of these software vendors that tailor their software to a GPU 40% of the time, NPU still 30% of the time, which matches CPU, which basically means we have these software vendors that are going into Intel and they're saying, hey, how can I optimize my software to fit and best fit and run on your CPU? The reason why I show this slide is Intel today has the highest number of overall platform TOPS. So that's across GPU, NPU, CPU. There may be a few other vendors that have higher amount of GPU TOPS or higher amount of NPU TOPS, but as an overall package, we have the most. That's important because you never know which ISV is important to you or your customer, and making sure that we have the highest amount of platform TOPS gives us the capability to be able to put it on the appropriate engine and have the best performance on that engine. And here's just kind of another way to reiterate that. You know, some of our applications that we use today, I think everybody's aware of Adobe, still runs mainly on the GPU. There's certain AI applications that are small language models, still run on GPU. However, there's still a variety of common applications, Microsoft Teams, Cisco WebEx, Zoom, that will run on NPU. A lot of the feature set, just like the background that we have today, will run on the NPU to give you longer battery life and better performance. And then, of course, those applications that we're used to today, the Offices of the world's Tableaus, they still run on CPU. Any questions on what that looks like across our stack comparatively? Okay. So the other piece, besides just, you know, having overall platform TOPS, is how we compare in each individual item, right? When we take our Lunar Lake and Arrow Lake H offerings against AMD and Qualcomm, we see faster CPU time, we have faster graphics, leadership content when that comes to like the Adobes of the world and video editing, and then of course AI. We have by far the most robust capabilities when it comes to the software ecosystem, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's not even really a talking point when it comes to AI specifically on the device. Keep in mind, some of your customers may not be running a lot of AI-based applications today, but as they have these systems for 3 to 5 years, you want to make sure that they're picking out something today that will suit their needs for tomorrow, next year, next 3 years. This is just another way to talk about our AI performance. If you're looking at a Qualcomm, which most people aren't today, they don't even run on some of these AI workloads on their NPUs, and especially not on their GPU. So it's a non-starter. Okay, so we've covered performance. Let's jump into battery life. When Qualcomm came out to the market, that was one of their biggest stories, right? We have the longest battery life of all time. This is important, especially for those on-the-go workers. But what we found with our Lunar Lake offering that came out about 6 months afterwards is that we were able to find more battery life than our highest competitor, Qualcomm, across our Lunar Lake offering. And the reason for this, a lot of times, is offloading to that NPU, the ISV and software ecosystem that we have available to make sure that everything is running on the appropriate engine. And then, Qualcomm came out with it, longest battery life. We showed that we have similar or better. And then, AMD's a lagging third, right? So if you have customers that are on-the-go workers, need that battery life, obviously Intel is your choice. So there's battery life. Security. Common misconception around customers is that you have to enable vPro. A lot of the security features that we have inside of our chipset are automatically enabled. When you say you need to activate vPro, that typically goes into AMT, the management capability, which we'll talk about here in the next one. But security is already built in, right? So what we have at Intel is a bounty system. We have essentially hackers come in and try to find vulnerabilities before we launch our product. As you see on your slide, 96% of those disclosed issues were found proactively, and then we take care of we mitigate all of the problems that we have, whereas some of our competitors leave some of those vulnerabilities unpatched. Net, we have our nearest competitor has 4.4 times more firmware vulnerabilities than we do. Why is this important? Well, you think about it in a home invasion scenario, right? Customers or people don't get a security system until after they're broken into. This is built in. It's not, you don't have to pay extra for it. It's part of our vPro platform. We charge the same amount for vPro as versus non-vPro. It's a no-brainer to make sure that your customers are buying vPro versions of your CPUs. This is just another kind of highlight. We have a threat detection technology. Again, it's built into there. Only 3% went unnoticed versus our nearest competitor, 73%. So 4.5 times more reliant than our competitors. I will send out each of these slides. This talks about our security story. We have AI threat detection, which means we're utilizing AI. So think of the CrowdStrikes of the world, the McAfees of the world. They're utilizing AI to not only detect threats, but also end threats there, right? So if AI is coming in, we got to reverse the trend and use AI to go combat the AI bad guys, right? And we're the only ones that can say that we do that. Okay, so we've got performance, battery life, security done. Manageability is next. And I kind of highlighted this. This is one of the features of vPro that does have to be activated. Traditionally, in the past, our customers have said, hey, activation is tough. It takes a lot of time. We have to have a dedicated server to it. That has all been removed with our vPro fleet services. It went down from 26 steps to 6. It works with Microsoft Intune, which the majority of customers have in some form or fashion. And we're the only one that can do out-of-band, remote, and out-of-band over 3 different interfaces. So Ethernet, Wi-Fi, and our threat technology. So not only do we have built-in security, if you activate it, we have best-in-class device management. Real-world scenario for this, right? We all know about the Blue Screen Friday, the outage that we had with CrowdStrike. We had a large airline carrier that had AMT, had it activated. They were up and running within 4 hours compared to some of the other large airlines that were out of compliance and out of running for 3 days to a week. They only had 1% of their flights canceled, whereas some of the other competitors for them had over 99% of their flights canceled. And this is really the value that that AMT and Emma bring with vPro, right? So instead of having one person fixing one computer at a time, you have multiple people being able to work on one person working on multiple systems, and it doesn't have to be on site. It can be remotely, right? So no physical access is required. Not only that, we can remediate our remediation steps can be automated. But the other key thing to this, obviously, if we care about the environment and the world that we live in, is it reduces the amount of truck rolls, right? Your customers don't have to bring it into their IT department. They don't have to ship it off, so it doesn't have flight or truck roll cost associated with it. So all in all, it's not only a better experience for the customer, but also a better experience for our environment. So there's 4 of the 6 knocked out. We talk about the software and ecosystem a lot already. We have over 250 different ISVs today. This is an old slide. We have over 450 AI features across CPU, GPU, and NPU. Remember, that's important because some of these ISVs utilize GPU, NPU, or CPU separately. So making sure that we are taking an ISV, tailoring their software to our processing capabilities, and giving the customer the best experience. This is unmatched in the industry, by far the most ISV partners of anyone in the industry. So not only will you see better battery life, but you'll see better performance across software. And as we know, software runs the world, right? So we got that. Last one is connectivity. So one of the biggest things about Intel Wi-Fi is that we create our Wi-Fi separately from any other brand, right? We only utilize the chips inside of our Wi-Fi for Wi-Fi. Some of our competitors, the Realteks, MediaTeks of the world, they utilize them in garage door openers or devices that sit inside the home, like a refrigerator. Our Wi-Fi capability and technology is custom built for commercial PC. Gives you faster performance, lower latency, helps with the battery life based on utilizing drivers for NPU, GPU, CPU. We also have better Thunderbolt technology, which you'll see inside of our docks. Next generation will actually have applications that are Wi-Fi connectivity aware. We just have a bunch of different offerings when it comes to connectivity. Our competitors themselves have asked to be able to utilize Intel Wi-Fi inside their platforms, politely have declined in the commercial space because we think it's one of our biggest value props, something we don't talk enough about. There's some cool features coming with Panther Lake. I will save that because we have 6 months, probably-ish, 3 to 6 months until they launch in commercial devices, but there's a lot of cool feature sets for the next iteration. Okay, so what this leads to, right, is all the vectors that we see in today's world: performance, battery life, security, manageability, software, connectivity. We dominate in all of those sectors. There isn't a better platform that's designed on Intel than a Dell Pro device. Just that 40 years plus of our engineering capabilities together puts it in the best hands and the best shape for your customers. Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause. I've talked a ton. I want to know what questions you have about the PC, and if we do want to continue on into the data center, happy to do it. If we don't, I'm happy to stop slides, but I'd love to answer any questions you guys have for the PC side of the house. Anything coming in the chat? Well, let me turn it back then. Or is anyone getting requests to have kind of a dual quoting strategy, right? Like beyond price, are there any factors that your customers are talking to you about any of our competitors? Are there any resources that you need from us to help you with the sell? Lead times expanding for desktops. So there will be supply constraint mainly on the lower end. So Raptor Lake Refresh, we call it our 10 nanometer product. There are a few various SKUs in our Arrow Lake platform, but most of the time when it comes to desktop, you're talking that Pro Max capability, the higher end SKUs, which we have plenty of supply for. Good question. The biggest problem that we see in the industry today are inside the memory supply as well as drive supply. So and again, that's another reason why Lunar Lake is so important, right? Beyond the drive capacity that you have, Lunar Lake has it on chip. We've purchased this memory up to a year ago, and so it's not something that we have to purchase today. The memory price of the existing builds will not go up on those. However, as you move to the future, eventually we sell through that. Of course, prices probably will increase if memory and drives are still in supply constraint. Okay, so let's see. I'm currently in touch with my account team on the end user side. I would like to learn more about Dell and Intel and data center. Okay, we'll go over those for sure. And then how does it affect Chromebooks? Chromebooks, those are also on the lower end of the spectrum. They are 10 nanometer. There is supply constraint on Chromebook as well, if that was your question. They do not have memory built in as far as the chip itself, so they will also be subject to some of those memory price increases as well. Good question, Charlene. Okay, so Larry mentioned that some of the out on 16 gig, which is 2x8, while 16 gig 1x8 are more readily available. I'm not sure on the reason behind that. If it's Arrow Lake versus Lunar Lake, that makes sense. Looks like Wendy may be answering. All right, let's see what else we have. Point of view on Dell's risk being Intel only on Chromebooks relative to the potential for Intel to purpose fab capacity to more profitable CPUs. Yeah, so it is, it's something we're watching today. We do know that there's probably space in the lower end of the market where we will likely give up share, to be honest. We do see more and more of our past Chromebook, past Chromebook customers kind of pushing up into that AI PC space. Because if you think about all the applications that can be utilized in education for our students, having an AI PC would dramatically improve the experience of what they're doing. Intel PDF product information over links. Yeah, happy to send that out. The other thing you can do is reach out to me via email. It's paul.dundee, like crocodile, Dundee, at intel.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have there, Raji. Good point, Larry. Yes. So the majority of the capacity constraint has to do with data center products and memory vendors moving the majority of their manufacturing capacity to those larger size DIMMs to meet the AI the AI demand. Because a lot of those AI large platforms, think like the Dell XE9680, require a significant amount of memory to utilize and be most effective in AI workloads. I don't know how to post it, so if somebody doesn't mind, oh, here we go. I think that let me know if that got through to everyone. Hopefully it did. If not, if somebody doesn't mind helping me out there and posting it in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to the data center side. Again, you know, that 40-year partnership that we have over 35 people just in North America supporting Team Dell at Intel. When I first started at Intel, there was, I think, 100 of us across the globe, but we split out by region. So I don't know how many there are now, but over 35 people just in North America supporting the Dell account. Not only that, Intel has over 30,000 software engineers. You'd think that's kind of crazy as a hardware company, but we have over 30,000 software engineers making sure that our products work inside of the Dell type devices. Other OEMs, of course, too. They're not all assigned to Dell, but just making sure that there's compatibility with Microsoft, with other software that we have out in the industry. And so what we've typically found, and it's really hard to market this, is our product just works. And that's a client statement. It's also a data center statement. So when we talk about what the Dell portfolio looks like, right, there's a variety of options that you have to pick from. AMD does have some variety of options inside here, but we'll talk about where the gaps are in their portfolio compared to ours. Just in general, if you go from the left side of your screen, XR series is that extra rugged. So think edge environments, think manufacturing, think military, in some cases retail environments. And we have our standard tried and true mainstream R series, so rack mounted. M series is for that ultimate density, but really a lot of those products are being phased out because of the high TDP of CPUs. XE series is GPU based servers, and then T series is the tower series. So where does Intel fit inside of all of those, right? So this is what Dell calls their 16G platform and portfolio. This has what we call our Sapphire and Emerald Rapids, or Xeon 4th and 5th gen CPUs inside of them. I stole this from Dell. I stole this slide from Dell, but the reason why I love it so much is if you look across all of the different types of platforms needed, all of these are Intel-based platforms. Our competition only sits, they have a couple inside mainstream and mainstream optimized. They had one inside of specialized, but when it comes to 16G, the majority of the platforms sit on Intel. So if you have a customer that has multiple workloads, multiple use cases, and want to have a homogeneous CPU behind it all, which most do, you have to go with Intel, right? And this is the case for a lot of OEMs, but it's especially true with Dell. So this is what we see inside of our Dell platform today, or excuse me, the Dell 16G platforms. And then let me jump into the 17G. The story is very similar, right? While our competitors do have a few more offerings and a few more platforms, across the board, all of these solutions are Intel-based. By the way, in general, if you want to make sure that you're buying an Intel platform, whether that be client or data center, just make sure it has a 0 at the end. So with our client devices, you may see like a PB12450. That 0 indicates Intel. The same thing goes for the data center side. So if you notice, all of these platforms have a 0 on the end minus the XR4 and 8. Those actually do. It's XR4000, XR8000. So this is the lineup that we have today. Excuse me. If you look on the left side, these are these 8-way GPU offerings. These are for those CSPs that are doing large training type environments. Then you move to the right side, we have our XE7740, which actually has Intel's GPU capability inside of it. So it has our Gaudi 3 offering, which we can talk about, probably take that one offline. We have a 770 AP. Incredibly important because Dell is one of the only OEMs that took our AP device, which is our accelerated platform chipset. Works really well in oil and gas, very well in HPC type environments, has higher memory bandwidth, and offers MRDIMM capability, which is for those memory bandwidth bound workloads. Our 770 and our 670 are Dell's bread and butter. They sell more of those servers than any other server out there on the market. Our 570 and our 470 are our one socket offering. One of the places that traditionally Intel had not played well in is the one socket device. That has completely changed in Dell's 17th generation. All of these are built on our Xeon 6 offering. So with 570 and 470, you have full SKU stack lineup capability. So all the way from the bottom end of our devices to the top end of our CPUs, you have that full capability, and you have kind of what we call this rich one socket offering with higher PCIe lanes. Typically, we're finding this play both in the low end and the very high end when we talk about space constraint, power constraint, but also being able to get in at an entry-level server. Again, I'll send these slides out, but this is what it looks like across Intel's CPU stack. So you, instead of having that bronze, silver, platinum, or gold, platinum, you now do it based off numbering, right? So the higher the second number, the higher performance you typically get, the more capabilities you typically get. And then if you look at the right side, you'll see which CPU series sits inside of which Dell platforms. As you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, I mentioned the AP platform. Dell is one of the only OEMs to support that. It's the 6900 series for us is the only one that sits inside the R770 AP. Purpose-built for HPC type workloads. Okay, so that's kind of the lineup. Again, I want to remind you guys, if you are not part of our Partner Alliance program, please, please, please make sure you sign up. You're leaving money on the table, as well as just overall collateral and training and ability to be able to understand the Intel portfolio a little bit better. But most importantly, the money that you get from being a part of our Intel Partner Alliance program and working through your favorite distributor. Okay, that's what I have from both the client and data center side. any more questions that I can answer before I kick it back over to the D&H team? Don't be shy. Hey, Wendy, do you happen to have the link available for IPA handy to put in the chat? Thanks, Larry. I appreciate it. Again, if you guys have any more questions, paul.dundee@intel.com is my email. I'm here to support you. I'm here to make sure that your businesses thrive because doing so makes mine as well. So happy to help in any way I can. Thank you very much for your time.
Great job, Paul. Thank you so much. For my final piece of it here, I do want to just, in summation to what I was saying before, we do have a wide variety of options to support your customers with, AI, with refreshing to Windows 11. He touched on most of, the product portfolios. If you ever have questions around the nomenclature, how to identify, which part, why it's named the way that it is, PA 14, 250, everything in that, naming designation indicates something. So like the 0 at the end, he had mentioned is Intel, the P at the beginning, that it's going to be your product category. And that'll have everything from your form factor, generation, and all of that is built into that naming convention. I could provide, recommendations for parts. I can tell you why the name is the way that it is. I can help you make the best suggestions for parts for your customers. So please don't hesitate to reach out to the D&H Dell team. I can send you guys in the chat here the email alias so that if you have any questions related to parts or anything like that, we can help make recommendations. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.